Hello and good afternoon, everyone. So today I am Milano Shazwani along with my friends Haikal Najwa and Nurhana Marisha from Group 4 are going to present our article review on topic age and gender, which is the role of age and gender in the choice of address forms. Our presentations include the introduction, summary, our review and analysis, and lastly, the conclusions.
Our general topic is gender and age, and for our specific topic is gender and age as primary factor for speech variation. We chose an article from Mahzad Margiha, which the title is The Role of Age and Gender in the Choice of Address Forms. So the article is basically about exploring the social linguistic norm of addressing people among Persian, where there's an investigation on the impact of gender as well as age on the choice of form of address in Persian, whether they address their people based on their age, more polite and formal address form when it comes to addressing elders, or do they address people based on their gender? Did women and men have a different way on how to address people? So linguists have long been concerned primarily with the form and structure of language, ignoring its social context and social variable that influence it. In the article, state that even Chomsky, who revolutionized linguistics in the mid-1950s and early 1960s, that his theory was limited to language form because he was focused on grammatical competence or the ability to construct well-formed sentences and distinguish between grammatical and ungrammatical statements. In the article also, the author mentioned that age and gender may contribute to determining the choice of linguistic form, especially when it comes to form of address, which can be determined by the degree of relationship between the speaker. So basically, the close you to the speaker, the comfortable language you use to communicate and to address them. As we all know that the facts about women speak more than men, and women tend to use more polite or formal expression because the language they speak symbolize their personality and dignity, which show us that gender is one of the important factors when it comes to language. The same goes for age. People usually use formal language when it comes to elders to show them respect, to earn respect. While for the youngster, we frequently use informal language. People in Malaysia take age as determining factor instead of gender. They choose to use formal forms of address while communicating with elderly. Moreover, women are more comfortable in using informal form of address with younger men and also men at their own age. So in our opinion, we agree that age and gender as primary factor for speech variation.
Moving on to the summary of this article research. So for the ideas of the study, we have the issue. The issue is to investigate the social linguistic norms of address in Persian, which is specifically the issue of whether age and gender affect their choice of address forms. And then we have the prediction, which is to discuss the hypothesis and the results of Russian usage of address forms in the Persian language system. So for the first purpose is to know that whether age and gender is used to determine the choice of linguistic forms that are used in addressing people in Persian language. Second is to explore the patterns of address that people employ in their interactions with others in using of the intimate or formal pronouns. And the last one is this, to know the length of the significance of the role of age and gender in the language that is used in Persian. So the social linguistic study was conducted to prove whether it is true that age and gender affected its native speaker's choice to address other people. It is also to see which factor affected them the most. Is it the age that affected the speakers the most, or the gender that is affected the address forms, or is it both of them at the same time? The languages have different pronouns for addressing different gender and the same gender, which is the Persian language also has. So the Persian language addresses people on different occasions within certain ages and different or the same gender with different pronouns. The data for this study were gathered to prove whether this hypothesis is true or not. Next, we have the procedure of gathering the data for this study. Firstly, the participants. There are 30 students who enrolled in Sheikh Bahai University, Isfahan in Iran, that has participated in this study, which is half of them are females and half of them are males. Secondly is the questionnaire. The data for this study were gathered by using a set of questionnaire that was prepared thoroughly and given to each of the participants. The appendix consisted of two main parts. The first one it proposed to obtain personal information about the subjects for the categorizations to be done. The second part is filled with items that were included to ask the subjects to choose the address forms they usually use for interactions with specified addresses of different ages and genders. They will have to choose one of the two address forms, which are to and soma, that they usually use when they speak with other specified people according to their respective age and gender. And then lastly, the result. The questionnaire that has been answered will be the evidence for this research and used to support its main prediction of this study. Moving on to the perspectives and styles of this research study. So first of all, it is crucial to know what to address people in a formal way or intimate way, and that using proper pronouns when referring to them in any course of a conversation is important too. So this study is to provide the perspective that we have to choose the right pronouns when we are speaking to different people. Unlike the English language, Persian language has two personal pronouns, which had been stated before, which is tu and soma for a singular addressee. Tu is mainly used for addressing intimate friends and colleagues, which also includes inferiors in terms of age and superiority, which is authority. Meanwhile, soma is used for interacting or addressing superiors or equals on different occasions. The very first part is the introduction, which includes the background research problem, purpose, significance, limitation, and organization of the study. The second part is the review of related literature, which consists of the main related theories and related studies. The third one is the methodology that has been used in this study. Then, the findings of the research will be discussed in it for the next part. Finally, the last part is about the discussions and conclusion of the whole research. It shows that the study is well organized in orderly manners with index and topics of the discussion. It makes it easier for readers to read and understand the context better, especially for ones that has never learned sociolinguistics. It has enough explanation, yet still simple and has sufficient points. The results of the study are presented in tables, so it helps to differ each result respectively. It has the same data, but the way it varies the presentation makes the study more interesting and relevant to read, despite of giving the precise result from the investigation.
I'm going to explain the review and analysis for our article. We will go through the strengths and weakness of this article and the overview of the study in reflecting Malaysian. Mahzad Mardiha's writing about the role of age and gender in the choice of address forms has several strengths that should be highlighted. The first strength is the central concept is clearly defined. Mardiha makes sure to explain thoroughly about the role of age and gender issues instead of giving implicit ideas that are stated but not fully expressed in the article. The writer keeps the focus on the central concept by providing more examples and references. The purpose of the study is also stated clearly, and Mardiha appraises the concept by putting the suitable items in the questionnaire. The next strength is the evidence is adequate.
there is a plethora of evidence like address terms and honorifics are included in sociodictics. The evidence is shown by stating that the study's importance stems from the fact that it focuses on the influence of social factors in the choice of forms of address. The article also provides us with the usage of kinship address terms as an evidence. It also proves that the existence of loan words from other languages is another factor that indirectly explains the lengthy history of Persian language and its interaction with other culture. And the last strength that we can see is this article is written in an orderly way. There are 5 sections. Every section has their own importance. For example, the first section is used for the background, the research problem, purpose, significance, limitation, and organization of the study. Same goes to the other sections, which all are well organized and written in an orderly way. So it is easy for readers to read this article and fathom every point. However, this study has a weakness. A drawback of this study is the limited number of participants in the questionnaire. The data population is limited to 30 Persian speakers who are 15 men and 15 women of university students. The use address forms are limited to formal situations only. The study will get a much better result if it could have a larger number of participants to reduce the risk of having extreme or biased group. The results of the study can also be reflected with Malaysians as well. Even if the study is based on Persians, the results are almost the same with our society. Based on my experience, men addresses interact with younger men or men their own age with intimate pronouns such as kau. They also address older men with formal pronoun like awak to be more polite. Women address younger women or women their age with intimate pronoun. Women address older women with the differential forms. This happened both for Persian and Malaysian women, to point to the fact that age is more significant than gender in attesting forms of address, not just for Persians, but also for Malaysians. It is proof that men interact with younger women or women their age using intimate forms. Moreover, men use formal forms of address with the elderly. On the other hand, there is a difference between Malaysian and Persian women. Persian women choose to use familiar forms with younger men and communicate using formal forms with older men and men their own age. However, Malaysian women are more comfortable in using informal forms of address with younger men or men their own age. This indicates that they are friendly with each other. Hence, it is clear that age plays an important role in determining forms of address, but we still have to remember that gender still plays a part, even if it is the smallest. In other words, gender corroborates the usage of pronouns, but age plays a salient role in regulating the usage of pronouns in Persian.
For the conclusion, the central concept is clearly defined as finding out the role of social factors that influence the usage of the formal or the informal pronouns while addressing other people. This particular finding may be associated with our country, such as people in Malaysia take age as determining factor instead of gender. For example, they tend to use formal form of address while communicating with the elderly, and for women, they are more comfortable in using informal form of address with younger men and men at their own age, because it shows that they are friendly with each other. As a general conclusion, this study proved that age as a social-linguistic variable because it is more significant than gender.
So that's all for our presentation. Thank you for listening.